This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I am here with Mike Reynolds from Hall in the Napa Valley. How are you today, sir?
Great, how are you?
Fantastic. We've just been tasting through your wines, and I have to say they are unashamedly Californian, that's for sure. And that is a very, very positive thing. Tell me a little bit about what you do in the Napa Valley.
Sure, well, we are a relatively new winery in Napa. We really established ourselves in 2002, and the most important thing to know about us is that we're one of the largest vineyard owners in Napa County. We actually own 3,300 acres of land, 500 acres of vineyard, and so we grow substantially all of the fruit that goes into our wines each year, and that gives us a unique perspective because we are not only the vintner and the winemaker, but we're also the grape grower. We very much view ourselves with the concept of the vigneron. The vigneron is a French word which literally means a wine grower. And the idea is that you grow your wines in the vineyard, not in the winery.
How much of the fruit do you purchase and how much is estate fruit?
So about 85% of what we make into wine comes from our own vineyards, and then obviously 15% would come from other vineyards. We actually own vineyards in 6 of the Napa Valley appellations, and in 2011 purchased fruit from another 4 of the Napa Valley appellations.
Now, you concentrate upon Cabernet Sauvignon, but you also make Merlot, you also make Sauvignon Blanc. What is the breakdown of those 3 major varietals within the Hall portfolio?
In terms of what we make, Cabernet Sauvignon represents about 65% of our entire production. Sauvignon Blanc would be, probably 20%, and then the balance would be Merlot.
Now, your wines are definitely what I would call ultra premium wines. Perhaps you disagree there, but I like to think of them as being that. How has the economic climate and how it has been over the last, say, shall we say, 5 years affected things at Hall?
Well, we've been new, so it's been an interesting scenario with the economic downturn, which in particular in the United States was more impactful than it was in Canada. But we were fortunate in that we actually grew through even the deepest of the downturn years. And if I were to, we are probably 3 times the size today of where we would have been in 2006. So
goodness me.
We've grown dramatically through that period of time.
Now, if you were to describe the house style at Hall, the first word that would spring to mind for me would be opulence. Where would you go from there?
Yeah, opulence would be a good word. Our wines are made in the winery with a very low intervention style. So all of the wines are native yeast fermentation, native malolactic fermentation. They're all unfined and unfiltered, and the aggregation of all of those techniques for me makes the wines have more richness and viscosity in the mid-palate. There's a suppleness and a ripeness of the tannins, which I think you'll see in all of our wines. And that viscosity in the mid-palate, I would say, really defines our wines vis-a-vis some of our brethren in Napa Valley.
Now, your wines have been quite favored by some of the most well-known wine critics in the world, but I was looking at some of the critics who were rating your wines, and they tend to be those who enjoy those more opulent styles, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But what is it that really screams Napa Valley to you when it comes to Cabernet Sauvignon?
Well, I think what Napa Valley does well, and I think in the last 20 years we've stopped being embarrassed about it and stopped trying to be like French wines, is the power of both structure and fruit that come from wines from the Napa Valley that in many other regions around the world are not, they can't do it because of their climate or their soil. And in the last 20 years in the Napa Valley, we've stopped being embarrassed about it, and we've started to really take pride in the fact that we can make unique, powerful, fruit-driven wines that are unlike any other place in the world.
You mentioned the non-interventionist philosophy that you follow at Hall, and yet you do utilize some of the most bleeding edge of winemaking technology. Is that not true?
Absolutely. So most important part of winemaking is taking care of the vineyards. And although we are organic farmers, we pay extreme attention to the farming of the vineyards. But once the fruit is harvested from the vines, what people forget is that every berry that arrives in a tank or stem or any other material that might get there has an impact on the flavor profile of that fruit. So we have 2 state-of-the-art wineries. We have the ability to sort every grape that comes into our facilities. In 2011, we utilized the technology of an optical sorter, which looks at every berry one by one to determine whether it is of optimal quality, really to ensure that every berry that arrives in the tank is just as we want it and impacts the flavor and the character and the texture of that wine appropriately.
Well, I think all of that application of technology certainly does make its way through to the glass. And we've been tasting those wines today, and they were really rather impressive. Thank you very much for joining us today at Good Food Revolution, and we look forward to catching up with you very soon.
Thank you.